You're listening to NDOI, America's Insurance Talent Showcase.
Today's podcast is sponsored by Chubb Group of Insurance Companies, Zurich Insurance, CompZone, and Succeed Management Solutions.
So many people absolutely hate workers' comp.
Hate.
They do. I love workers' compensation.
Me too. But it might just be you and me.
It might be.
It feels that way some days.
It absolutely it does. But I love it because it's the one coverage that employers and brokers can do the most with and can get the most authentic result out of.
Do you mind if we talk a little bit just about what workers' compensation is, just in case someone needs to have a little bit of background on it? So workers' compensation is a mandatory coverage if you have employees, and it's a system designed to deliver benefits to your employees in the case if they are ever unfortunately injured on the job. It provides medical benefits, wage replacement benefits if they're unable to come to work, permanent disability benefits. God forbid someone actually passes away. There's even death benefits. So it's really a social pact. And it's a social pact between the employees, the workforce, and the employers. And
what do you mean by social pact?
So the pact is basically that the employers agree to pay for and provide a systemic bunch of benefits, so medical, wage replacement, and so on. In return, the employees agree that their sole remedy if they're injured on the job has to happen within the workers' compensation system. So it, not 100%, but it prevents litigation. So the employers know that if someone's injured on the job, unless they're grossly negligent, that workers' compensation and their workers' compensation carrier are going to take care of the injury.
Okay, but you're saying it prevents litigation, but I think a lot of people out there would say, are you kidding me?
Yeah.
There's a lot of litigation
Right,
out
but
there.
that litigation happens between the employee and their representative, their attorney, and the carrier and their representative, as opposed to the employer having to defend themselves directly.
So for me, the reason that workers' comp gets turned upside down so much is because people are working so hard to do things to lower the cost when actually those things are making the cost go up.
So true. It's so true. Before I continue that, I want to throw in a little bit of a fun fact. People don't know, but actually you can trace the roots of workers' compensation to the days of piracy. So if you think about it, Redbeard, Captain Hook, if one of their pirates actually was injured, they had to compensate them. So if you lost an arm in a sword fight, they actually had a prescribed amount of money that had to be given to that pirate.
Well,
So fortunately, we've come a long way since then.
Although I think some people still think
we're there.
in the time of piracy. Yeah, absolutely.
They feel like they're the victims of the piracy.
Yeah.
It's true.
Yeah.
It's true.
Because here you're for example, you're expecting your managers and supervisors to control workers' comp claims. And yet, how those managers and supervisors manage people, I mean, if somebody loves their boss and they get injured, they're going to do everything they can to get back. If they feel like they don't like their boss or their boss is a boss and doesn't get them, then they're going to do everything they can to stay out of work. Interesting thing, again, everybody's working really hard to get the rates on workers' compensation shopped and really low.
Oh gosh, such a mistake.
Right. And how frustrating is it that, I'm thinking, get me the cheapest rates and you get me the cheapest rates. And now my rates are going up and up and up. And I'm mad at my agent when the reality is I've got this culture-based organic thing happening that is just driving up my costs. I feel completely helpless.
Well, if that's your strategy, you are helpless. And I hate to say that, but the truth is, in this world, if you buy cheap, you will end up getting cheap in return. And there's nothing wrong with that, but you have to know what you're getting. And if your strategy to reduce your workers' compensation is to bid each year and just go to the lowest price workers' compensation carrier option, the sad truth, and it is sad, but the sad truth is you're going to end up paying more. It sounds counterintuitive, but that's going to be the result.
And that's what happens in it.
All the
it
time.
makes people mad at insurance people.
It does. But I actually blame insurance people for that.
Why?
It's our job to articulate why that's not a good strategy. And we don't do it. And I think it's really tempting in the moment for that producer or that agency to pursue the bid approach because it gets them that business. But it's a really short-sighted strategy, don't you think?
Well, But then what they're also thinking is, well, the carrier, the insurance carrier, is going to provide all the services that's going to take care of keeping claims down. I think that's a really big mistake as well.
Huge.
I mean, the carriers are really important, but to expect that the carrier from the outside is going to have some kind of magic dust to stop something that's systemically happening.
If this were Disney, that would be the case. But in the real world, it's not. Look, if you're a carrier, you do your best. Certainly the carriers want to have profitable business. So, their goal certainly is to provide care to injured workers, with a secondary goal of making sure that the accounts that they provide coverage for are profitable for them.
This is what I see. I see that we bring adjusters out to meet with clients to talk about the claims as a way to prove that we are doing something to lower the cost.
All the time.
Right? And they get out there and it's a setup because the adjuster is sitting there saying, well, this is what's happening with the claims. I can guarantee it. There's something in that the insured is not going to like. And they're frustrated, they're mad, and they're beating on the adjuster. And then everybody's walking away feeling helpless, like, well, what the heck did we have that meeting for? And it's not to throw any carrier under the bus.
Not at all. They do a tremendous job.
They do. They do a tremendous job. It's just that when you put people on the spot at any given moment in time to create some outcome when they've already been working on the claims, it's a setup.
It's a setup. Most thankless job in our industry, claim adjuster. Brutal job.
It's a brutal job.
Like being a dentist, right? You can be a claim adjuster, but if you go to the dentist and you've just had a crown put in, you just had a cavity taken care of, the dentist and their team could have done a great job, but you're probably not giving high fives on the way out, right? Because it was pretty miserable. No one really likes what you're doing, neither the employee nor the employer. Really tough job. I have a lot of admiration for those people.
Well, so it's very similar on the doctor side.
Yeah.
Okay, so it's really, we're letting the doctors handle it. So somebody gets injured, we send them to the doctor, or worse, we send them to the emergency room. And we're saying, well, the doctor will send him back when he can come back to work or she can come back. But again, we're doing that because we think that's going to help keep our costs down.
It's funny. I love this analogy. It's kind of like putting it all on the doctor, but you eat Big Macs every day. Right? And then saying it's his fault because my heart condition is getting worse. Right. You actually have to be an active participant in this.
Exactly right. But that's, again, the same thing we do. We throw it into the medical community, which, of course, when you send somebody into the medical community, they have to do things to people because that's what they do.
That's what they do.
Again, nothing against doctors.
No, it's what they do. It's what they're supposed to do.
Exactly. So there's this level of knowledge of we need to make sure we have appropriate level of care. If something's a first aid, that it really is being handled as a first aid, that it's, if it's emergency. I mean, what is an emergency? I learned that actually many years in this business. I learned just a few years ago, what is really an emergency? Somebody's unconscious or you can't stop bleeding or it's, broken, protruding bones.
Well, for that matter, what is I bet a lot of people don't even know what a first aid is in terms of workers' compensation. What can be considered a first aid claim? They're probably, more than likely sending in all of their injuries and they're reporting the carrier, which they should, and they're letting the carrier pay the bills. And they think that's a really strong solution. They're probably never exploring the prospect that certainly in California and a lot of other states, if the injury is very minor, it's possible that you as the employer can pay those bills directly. And while it may seem counterintuitive to think that you're saving money by paying out of pocket, actually you're saving a lot of money because each one of those claims is going to enter your XMOD formula. I guess I should explain that in a second, but let me touch on that for a second. It's going to enter your XMOD formula for 3 consecutive years. It's going to be included in your loss runs probably for 5 years for marketing purposes. And you're going to actually end up paying multiple times the cost of that claim in your premium. By the way, an XMOD is just a metric, a benchmark figure that compares your business to other businesses in your state in terms of how many claims you're having and how expensive they are.
I just was in at a very large business that their mandate was send every injury, no matter how big, how small, into workers' comp.
Oh, gosh.
With the idea that's what we buy insurance for. not recognizing that it's really it's not just insurance. This is really a financing mechanism.
Absolutely.
That's what workers' comp is. It's a financing mechanism to help you manage injury cost over time. But people don't see it like that. Again, it's that, what's my bid this year?
Such a mistake. And the truth is, you know who's going to pay for that? The employer. Yes, clearly workers' compensation is purchased and it is intended for and is there for to take care of when your employees get injured. But you do want to take control of that as much as possible. You do need to submit all injuries, clearly, but there are certain techniques that every employer, with hopefully the guidance of their broker and their carrier, are taking to minimize their out-of-pocket costs.
So we're talking about what are things that people do thinking that they're lowering costs, but actually makes it more expensive. So a couple of other things. One of them was discouraging people from filing workers' comp claims or having incentive plans that reward people for not making injuries.
Huge mistakes. Also, arguably highly unethical. You absolutely cannot discourage someone from filing a claim if they're injured. OSHA's really clear on that. So your safety incentive program cannot be seen to be encouraging someone not to report when they're injured.
Well, not to mention the fact that if somebody is hurting, that it's better to really figure it out when they first think they might be hurting rather than say, don't. I actually had that happen in a manufacturing company where I was watching people do stretches in the company. And as they were doing stretches, their face was, ow, like those people are hurting. And the supervisor said to me, don't worry, they won't make a workers' comp claim.
Which of course made you worry 10 times as much.
I said, why won't they make a workers' comp claim? Because we don't allow it. We tell them, put it all in your medical insurance.
Wow.
And actually that business is no longer in business.
I am so not surprised to hear that.
Yeah.
Because that was probably just a symptom of probably a larger cultural issue within that company. It's a big symptom.
Yeah.
But that's awful.
But that's, really, yeah. So another thought that I have that comes to my mind, I'm sure you've got a million more, but is assigning safety to specific people. So where you say, okay, this is our safety person.
As opposed to making it just an integral part of the entire company's culture and the way that they do things.
Yeah.
Huge mistake. Wouldn't you agree? Safety is everyone's responsibility, from the person who picks up the phone to the person who works on the machine.
But we
all the way
say
up to
that,
ownership.
but people don't, it's not in their being. It's not in their culture oftentimes.
It needs to be. It's such a mistake to assign two people and assume that they're going to, be the safety police in your company. Everyone operating a piece of equipment, everyone driving a car for you needs to understand that for them to do their job well is exactly the same thing for them as doing it safely. If you pick up a new piece of business, if you make a great piece of equipment and someone gets hurt along the way, that is not a job done well.
Yeah.
It has to be that way. You'll find if you don't do that, you can make a lot of top line revenue. Perhaps you're putting out a lot more equipment because you're cutting corners. You're just going to bleed that money out on the insurance side. Maybe even on the employment practices, maybe you'll end up getting sued. Maybe OSHA will be coming to your door. Huge pitfalls there. Bad idea.
So David, believe it or not, we are out of time.
Lynn, as always, it's been so much fun. For those of you who are listening, please continue to send us your questions and comments. Our email is executiveservices@ndoi.com, or you can post your comments directly on our YouTube video.
So that's executiveservices@ndoi.com. Thank you for listening. Now go write some insurance.
Today's podcast is sponsored by Chubb Group of Insurance Companies, Zurich Insurance, CompZone, and Succeed Management Solutions.